Okay, hey guys. Good to see your faces again. I feel like it's been a while. Um, Welcome to Empowered Elites team call for May 3rd. I just have a couple like announcements I want to cover, and then some recognition before we get started. So, in case you missed the updates in the team page, just to make sure you are all aware, the All Access Challenge Pack is still the sale is going to continue for $160. So huge, huge, huge opportunity there for all of us. The Success Club prize this month is a webinar with John C. Maxwell. That is definitely something you don't want to miss. Of all the Success Club prizes that we are offered, the webinars are the most valuable for you because they're just such incredible speakers with such incredible topics. And John C. Maxwell is one of my favorite authors, so that is definitely something that you want to aim to earn. The next thing is that we have a new program launching called UV2, and it's a great dance program for beginners, and it's also going to have a kid modifier option on it. So that's going to be added to the programs that are on the all access options as well, which is super exciting, and that comes out on May 16th. There's new Shakeology samplers that are included with the new vegan flavors too. If you have people that wanted to kind of check those out or taste those, or current customers that want to try the flavor before, they get a month of it, those are a great option to know about. And Success Summit registration opens on May 10th. So if you are registered for Summit and you're wanting to make sure that you select the same track, I chose track F. That is the track you'd want to select if you want to be with our team. And then you get to choose whatever workout that you personally want to do. Like I said, that will open on May 10th, and just make sure that you watch your email because it starts at 9 a.m. You'll receive an email that gives you a link to register with your password and all of that. So just keep an eye on your email on May 10th for that. And for the Success Club party, if you are coming to Summit, the qualifications were that you had to hit Success Club 5 in April and also Success Club 5 in May with a total of 20 points to earn an invite to the Success Club party. So if that's on your radar, make sure that you're aware of that as well. Yes, Declan. Okay. So does anybody have, yes, it's on the counter, babe, right there. Does anybody have recognition that they want to shout out before we get started?
Laurel Kapfer is regaining her emerald tomorrow. So I know she's not on, but a little yay for that.
Who was that? I missed it.
Sorry, Laurel Kapfer on my team. So she is just regaining her emerald, which then thankfully means I regained my diamond.
Yay! Awesome. Congrats, Laurel.
Yay.
Does anybody else have recognition they wanted to shout out? No? Okay, well, since I didn't get to shout this out last week as I was getting ready to leave for Punta Cana, I have to give a huge congratulations to Megan Levine, who is our team's newest Diamond coach. Diamond is such an absolutely incredible achievement to have on your way to really building a solid foundation for your business and really putting yourself in the place of the highest potential. So huge congratulations to you, Megan. I don't think that you're on, but we're celebrating you anyways. And I also have to give a huge shout out because she is only the second coach on this team to actually achieve this milestone with her team. And Kelly Kuntz this week is actually 2-star qualifying with her team, and that is absolutely huge. So huge congrats to you, Kelly. I don't think you're on either, but we're celebrating you too. And if you guys are not aware, to be a 2-star diamond coach, it means that you have helped 2 coaches on your team rank advanced to diamond. And it also allows you to open a second business center, which helps you have a lot more control of how you're earning income. So this is a really, really, really huge milestone for Kelly and also for her team. So congrats to Kelly and congrats to the Wildflower Tribe. And then last but not least, I have to recognize Miss Laura Gallup. once again, she is officially a Success Club All-Star legend this week. And if you do not understand what that means, it means that Laura has achieved Success Club for 24 consecutive months in a row, which just speaks to her true consistency, her desire to help other people, really leaning in and pouring into this business despite being a busy mom and a nurse and working nights. She makes this business a priority. She makes her goals a priority, and absolutely huge accomplishment for you, Laura, too. That might be you on the phone. I'm not sure. She's still in Punta Cana. So congrats, Laura. And that's it. Super excited for everybody. Awesome job, you guys. So now I'm going to go ahead and get started if nobody else has anything that they wanted to shout out. One last call. No? Okay. All right. So I am so excited for our guest speaker tonight. I have Miss Stephanie Burgos on tonight. Did I say that right, Steph? Yes, I hope. Stephanie and I actually met at our Orlando Super Saturday events, and she might look familiar if you do go to Super Saturdays because she actually was featured in a Super Saturday video at some point last year with her absolutely incredible transformation and success story. And I really just thought it would be amazing for her to hop on and speak to you guys tonight because she is a super busy person that does not make excuses of why she can't make time for this business. She is an emergency medicine doctor. So given just that alone, you could see why she could have excuses, but she doesn't. She's a 2016 Elite Coach, a 5-star Lifetime Diamond, and has been in Success Club for 45 months. So, and Stephanie, I don't want to quote it, but I know that you've also paid off a ton of debt. So I'd love if you would share about that as well. And at the end, when you're done speaking, I just have a couple questions for you that some of the coaches on my team asked me to kind of dig into a little bit, but go ahead. I will be quiet. Thank you for hopping on.
Awesome. Absolutely. Can you guys hear me? So first of all, I just want to say I'm super excited to be speaking with you guys tonight. And I want to thank every single one of you for taking time tonight. I know that you guys are all busy women and you guys are probably either mothers or have jobs or just, would rather sometimes be doing something else. And so I commend you for showing up, to this call, to making time for your business. I don't take that lightly. And so one thing I just want to kind of put out there is that please feel free if there's anything that I say or anything that you want more information on, I have the message chat up right here next to me. So like, if you have any questions, like I've been around, since 2013, gone to my 4 years as and my 4 years with Beachbody. I've gone through the emotional roller coaster of being an entrepreneur. So I am an open book. And so if you have any questions at all, please, I have no shame in sharing anything. So I just want to put that out there. I will share everything, whatever you ask me. Is no question is stupid. No question is, or too dumb or whatever. So anyway, let me go ahead and first start off with my story, right? That's usually how we kind of start off these calls. So I became a coach back in July of 2013, and I actually became a coach. It kind of fell into my lap. I was a busy, I was actually in the busiest time of my life. I was a busy resident up at Harvard in Boston, and I was working about 60 to 70 hours a week. And of course, like the overachiever that sometimes physicians and healthcare providers are, we're like, gee, what else can we do? And so I was working a ton of hours, really stressed out, stress eating, emotional eating, horrible sleep hygiene. And I was starting to get really depressed with the way that I was looking. I didn't like my physical appearance. I was someone that I typically am naturally a very bubbly person, love taking photos. I found myself not wanting to get in photos. I found myself critiquing, how my face looked, how my body looked, really being upset with how clothes were fitting me, becoming kind of like a slave to the scale and being very emotionally upset with that. I don't know how many of you can relate to that, where you're just like emotionally upset with what the number numbers say. And I knew that I needed to find a solution. And at that time, I was just scrolling through social media. I was, I had just opened up an Instagram account. I was looking through all these Instagram accounts, and I would find these women that were like having these before and afters. And then there was like these young women like in their early 20s, and they were doing ebooks. And I was like, wow, this is really cool. Like, isn't it really awesome how they get to, transform their bodies, and they are, inspiring other people, and they're making money, right? Like, I thought that was really awesome. And I was like, shoot, I could do that. Like, why can't I do that? I never really judged it. I'm someone, let me tell you guys something. I'm someone that I'm always looking of ways to how to make money. And so, it's just my mindset. And so anyway, so I came across this in a kind of just roundabout way. I had found out about T25 through Insanity, because my boyfriend had like the bootleg copy of Insanity. Like, it was like the copied version that he had gotten, from a CD of a CD, and we had done it together. And it was like really hard. I don't know if you guys have ever tried Insanity, but it is like soul crushing. And like, I was someone that like, I used to work out all the time. Like, even though I was busy, I would go to the gym, I would sit on the elliptical machine, on the treadmill, for hours, watching HGTV and Food Network, imagining about this food that I can't have, and just like being on this for like 45 minutes, 50 minutes. And I wasn't seeing the results that I wanted. I would go for jogs all along Boston, so pretty, huge, huge running city. And I was just not seeing the results that I wanted to see. So then I put in Insanity, and it was like hard as crap. Like, it was so hard. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm like so out of shape. Like, this is so bad. And so at the time, T25 had just came out. And so by doing that Insanity, I had heard about Shakeology, from the little snippets after the workouts. And I was like, all right, it's done. T25, I want to do this. I want to do this with Shakeology, this thing I have been hearing about with Insanity. I do this. This is just 25 minutes. And so I started kind of scrolling on Facebook. I knew no one who was a Beachbody coach. No one. No idea this whole world existed, right? It's like, I'm sure like you guys know. Like, when you guys came into this, you had no idea this like whole other universe existed of Team Beach. And this girl, and I'll leave it with this too. This girl just randomly, I posted like a picture of a lemon water. And this girl randomly, I don't even know who she is, came up to me and messaged me and said, hey, my name is so. I noticed that you posted a picture with lemon, and it looks like you've been interested. It looks like you might be interested in fitness. Would you be interested in learning more about being a Beachbody coach? And she literally didn't know me from anywhere, didn't ask me anything. Like, she just asked me straight out. And I was like, well, what does it entail? She's like, well, you'll get a discount on Shakeology, and you'll get a discount on your products. And I was like, done. That's fine. That's all I want. Like, I knew that because I was ready, right? So this goes to show, don't be afraid to ask people, because you never know if they've been kind of on the fence. You never know if they've been looking for a reason to get on these products, and they just haven't had someone who asks them, and they don't know someone, and they don't know how it works. And so I said, done, let's sign up. Knew that I wanted to try Shakeology for a couple months, and I wanted the discount. And so that is how I became a Beachbody coach. And so when I signed up, it was also around the same time. I also want to say, when I signed up, I was doing a rotation at Children's Hospital in Boston, and I had come across two young women who were 18 and 19, and they were overweight, and they were coming into my children's hospital because they wanted to commit suicide, and they were depressed. And I remember wanting to do more. Are there care providers here? I don't know if you guys, if there's any, oh, perfect. So how sometimes you don't have time to really counsel people. You don't really have time depending on what job you have. And so I found myself wanting to do more, wanting to sit down and inspire these young, beautiful women who had so much ahead of them. And I remember walking away from that experience saying, wow, I wanted to do more. So let's take that. That was right before I happened to fall into this coaching thing. And so the night that I signed up for coaching, all of a sudden that experience came back to me. And I said, wow, wouldn't it be, and I thought about all those girls on Instagram, and I said, wow, wouldn't it be really cool if I can share my transformation and share my journey and inspire one person, just one person. Even if I got into the best shape of my, if I got into the best shape of my life, all the products, all of the investment would be absolutely be worth it. You know what I mean? If I'm going to be using the products, if I'm going to be drinking the shake, but if I even help one extra person, that would be the icing on the cake. And that was my mindset. And I also then at that same time, I allowed myself to start dreaming and have a vision. And I was like, wow, wouldn't it be really awesome if I can create something on social media where I can really inspire and motivate many people as opposed to just working with the people that I can directly touch in. And someone needs to mute themselves. Let's see. But that was my mindset when I first got started. And I will also say, just to kind of, because I think all of this is important, is that, guys, I spent 12 years of my life, going after becoming a physician from medical school. Like when I first started residency, all I kept thinking was, now what? What's next? And that is a very hard feeling to have when you've been wanting to be something. I had wanted to be a doctor since I was a child, and I had accomplished it. And now I was like, what's next? To me, it wasn't my passion. It wasn't something that lit a fire in me. I enjoy it. I love it. I continue, I love what I do today. To me, is genuinely a career. It's a job, but it's not my passion. And I was still seeking that passion. I would watch my boyfriend, who's a dancer, and I would watch him practice for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours, and then take a quick break and then get back up and practice for hours and hours and hours because he loved it. And I did not love something that much. And I wanted to love something that much. At that time, when I came across Beachbody, it was like immediately, for me at least, something happened inside of me. It got really excited, and I said, you know what? There's something here. There's a potential here. I believe in myself. I believe that I can really impact people, and I'm going to try it because why not? Early from day one, I started posting. From day one, I started posting my journey. And if you were to look back on my Instagram, mind you, I didn't have any people. I had about 2 Instagram. They were my friends. And it was like clockwork. If you go back to my Instagram, you can see it's like clockwork. Every day I posted 3 posts. My work photo, 1 picture of what I ate, and a motivational quote, like clockwork. It was like, okay, these are going to be my 3 posts. I will say one thing, probably what's going to be different between me and you, and probably, Dana's probably going to be like me, and maybe some of you who have seen a lot of success, but I am extremely consistent. I am extremely consistent with showing up to my business. I will say this, is that in almost 4 years of this business, despite how busy I have been, despite moving from different states, despite obstacles in my family life, obstacles with deaths, obstacles with being sick and taking care of sick people, I have never, ever, ever missed a day of posting to my social media. And I cannot stress that enough. I have never, ever, ever of posting on my social media. Why? Because that is my storefront. That is my storefront. That is where I am building a relationship. That is where I am adding value. That is where I am showing up. I am being consistent. And that is what your audience is seeing. And so when you don't show up to your social media because life got the best of you, or because you forgot, or because you're on vacation, or because X, Y, and Z, like if you don't show up, it's like literally putting a closed sign door, to your business, and you have to look at it that way. It's incredibly, incredibly important that I've seen that have had great success in this business. I've learned so much about them and what's going on in their life, because when life gets hard and obstacles come, they don't pull back, and they don't stop posting, and they don't stop sharing. If anything, they utilize that to really be able to relate to their audience to make them more relatable, to make them more human, guys. Because remember, in this society, overall in the world, what people need is more human connection, and people need more human relationships, and they need, that ability to be able to connect to you. And if all you're ever showing is when things are good and when it's a highlight reel and when things are going great, that's not going to be able, you're not going to be able to communicate as effectively. You have to share the good and the bad. And so I went on and I was super consistent, and I used T25, and I said, if I can stay motivated and I can get results with this program, I know people will come to me. I know people will naturally ask me, Stephanie, what are you doing? And let me tell you, that's exactly what happened. Within 6 weeks, I had great results with T25, and they were asking me, they were like, what are you doing? You're busier than me, and you're working out to this thing. Cause I kept literally, and I wasn't fancy, guys. Literally, it was like a sweaty selfie, and that was it. It was like a sweaty selfie, workout done, about to run, about to take a shower and run to work because I have my shift in like 30 minutes. And so I wasn't poster, so that's fine in case you're someone that you're like, well, I don't know exactly what to post. I don't know exactly what to say. I would just say, show up. And so little by little, I started doing that. I was showing up every single day. People were asking me, and I was giving them information. And even throughout my journey, and even throughout my kind of coaching journey, anytime that I have ever felt that I was falling off a little bit, I would get refocused with the program. I would recommit to my nutrition, recommit to my exercise, because that in itself will gauge, you will get interest from that. When people are seeing you, and you're going to be feeling good, right? When you're looking good and you're feeling good and you're releasing those good endorphins, you're going to feel amazing, and you're going to have that positive energy, and people are going to be able to see that. And so that's going to be, so that's incredibly important. And so little by little, I posted, I shared. It took me 6 months, guys, 6 months of consistently showing up to find my first coach. And I like to say that to people because they think, people get worried when they haven't, found someone in 1 month. It took me 6 months of like consistently, and I found her on social media, and on Instagram. You know what she told me? She told me she came to me because I was super consistent, and it was right around January when she came to me, and she was like, you were posting even during the holidays. And so and she was like, and you look a little bit like me. She's an African-American woman, Sophie Bay. If you guys don't know her, she's fantastic. But she was just like, I respect that. I respect that you still show up, and you still were showing up during the holidays, and I want to be on your team. And so she was my first real coach. And it took 6 months of posting. And again, I like to say that because I know how sometimes, especially newer coaches, we tend to worry about how many likes we're getting and how many comments we're getting. And we feel like nobody's watching, but I can't stress to you that you have like an army of silent people watching you. And you just have to kind of trust that. And trust that even though it may seem like no one is engaging with you, someone is reading it, and they're watching from afar, and they're just waiting to either see if you're going to give up, or they're going to wait and see what you're going to do with this. And that is what you need to show them. You need to show them that you're going to be there, months from now, years from now, so that you have that credibility. And that's going to be incredibly important. So I would say that's a big part of my story, and kind of continuing that kind of consistency, really focusing on making sure that I was always improving my brand, showing up, making sure that I was always doing personal development, because in the beginning I didn't necessarily think I needed personal development. But this business, will show you absolutely need personal development. And so as I kind of took that on, as my team kind of grew together, it got hard. It got hard leading others. And I will be honest with you. And I know that, Dana wanted me to talk a little bit about time management. And one thing that I wanted to kind of really talk to you guys about is that I actually am really bad at time management, which, you're probably like, well, then how did you get this done? And I was someone that in the first 1.5 to 2 years, I built this business by myself. My boyfriend now builds this business with me. And so he helps me. But in that first year and a half, when I was doing this on my own, I was literally doing this in the cracks of my life is what I call it. And so any spare moment that I had that I wasn't busy, I really applied it to this business. And I'm someone, when I was thinking about, when I thought about the vital behaviors, the one that was the most important to me was always inviting. That was the most important to me, that no matter what, I always made sure that every single day I was having conversations with people, because I knew that was the most productive business move, business that would move my business forward. And so no matter what, I was doing follow-ups. If I got up I never did my work in the morning. I always tend to do work when I was on my commute, when I was at work, sneaking into the bathroom at work, absolutely, and commenting on people and following up with people and messaging them back. When I was walking back home, because I would walk home depending on which hospital I was at, or if I was on the train, if I was on one of the hospitals that was a little further away, and I would utilize that time to work on my business and to post and to share. And that is when I would utilize my time. And then when I came home, I would spend that time as well, following up with people, talking to people, doing my own training. I will say this, guys, that my upline the two above me do not work this business. And so I did not have any support from my sponsor coach or the coach above her. And so I kind of was just like, I used to always just go on YouTube. I used to always just go on and just try to seek information and really study top coaches and look for the ones that I could relate to, and really study how they posted, how they crafted their words. Because I will tell you guys, I'm not a very creative person at all. Like it's really hard for me to think about, like, how do I make this photo look pretty? And like, how do I how do I craft this really well? And so, but I needed to get inspired. And so as opposed to just kind of, sitting here like, oh, gee, I guess, what am I going to say? I would get to work and I would do my research, right? I would do my research and I would go to people's posts and go to people's pages that I was attracted to their posts, and I would get ideas. And that's how I started in the very beginning when I was first starting, when I needed to get those ideas. And that's one thing that I say is that one thing that I took, that I took from medicine, there's a couple things that I took from my journey to medicine applied, was that you always have to stay a student. You always have to stay willing to learn. You always, if you come into this thinking you know it all, you got to leave that ego at the door. And that's something that's incredibly, incredibly important, because you need to remain a student at all times. Because once you think you have it all figured out, I promise you something's going to happen and you're going to be like, whoa, this is like, I didn't even know this was going to happen, or like, how am I going to handle this? And you have to be humble enough and willing enough to stay that student, so that you go and you seek answers and you talk to people and you seek trainings, and you network with people, you communicate with people. But you can't just be sitting waiting for things to happen, waiting for things to fall on your lap either. You know what I mean? And yes, exactly. Speaking of being resourceful. So that's incredibly important. Another thing I would say that I took from medicine, especially applying it to this business. Remember, guys, I took 12 years of my life of working like a dog and studying, never really knowing if I was going to be guaranteed that end prize. Because I have friends of mine that didn't graduate. I have friends of mine that didn't make it to that end goal. And so when I became a business owner with Beachbody, I took that same mindset and knew that I was going to have to bust my butt and work really hard in the beginning for not much. And I was okay with that, because like I said, I had already experienced that type of mindset, that type of lifestyle, in medicine. And so bye, April. And so I had already experienced that with medicine. And so and honestly, I think that is one of the main reasons why I've had a lot of success, is because of that mindset. It's realizing that you're going to have to put in a lot of work in the beginning. Really, sometimes you're going to feel like for not a lot return, but genuinely realizing and knowing that you're going to get that return. So that's something to keep in mind, and asking yourself, where are you? Are you someone that wants kind of that quick return, and you want to see results fast? Because I will tell you, you're going to get very frustrated and you're going to get disappointed in this business. And it's more realistic to really look at this in a more realistic tone, which is that you're going to have to put in the work. You're going to have to build. You're going to have to stay a student. You're going to have to leave your ego at the door, and you're going to need to put in all that work to see the success later on. And that's just really, really incredibly important. And then obviously, in terms of for time management, for me, in the beginning, I really worked a lot on trying to figure out like how to keep track of people, right? Like I lost a lot of people because I didn't have a system. I didn't have, a paper or electronic. And it took me a long time. I will say that now, I personally use Teamsy now for my follow-up and for my tracking. It has really been a complete lifesaver for me. Before that, I used to use Streak with email, with Gmail. And I used that for almost a year to a year and a half. I used Streak before Teamsy kind of came about. And that worked for me really well. I tried the pen and paper. It did not work for me. Now, what I always tell people when it comes to managing their prospects and managing is that you just got to find what works for you and stick to it. There are paper people, there are super planner people, and then there are like electronic people, but you need to have a system and you need to know who you need to follow up with, because people are going to fall through the cracks if you're not having a solid system. Because I will tell you guys that 90% of my sales come from follow-ups. So 90% of my sales come from follow-ups. When a person comes to me today for the first time, I do not think that they're going to buy. I know that they're just coming into my network now. They're going to start following me. They're going to start seeing what I'm about. They're going to start watching what I post, the progress that I post of myself, the progress that I post of my clients. And then maybe in a couple weeks or a couple months, they'll come around, And so that's something that's incredibly important to know as well, is that people who come to you today, they're going to be buying from you later on. You're planting seeds today. You're talking to them. You're letting them know what it's about. You're letting them know the price. That way, when they come to you later on, they already know what it's going to take in order to, to work with you. So really kind of keep that in mind. But if you're not having a system and you don't have a place to know who you're going to be following up with and when you're going to be following up with them, you're going to forget, right? That's just natural. You're absolutely going to forget. So just kind of really keep that in mind. And then let's see, in terms of, I just kind of have here Teamsy with the follow-ups, Streak. Now, and I will say this, guys, and you don't have to have all your ducks in a row to be successful at this. One thing I've learned in other areas of my life is that as long as you take action, that's all that matters. And there's something that has to be said about imperfect action. So, especially if you're someone that you want everything to be perfect and you want everything to look really pretty and look really nice, it's going to stop you. It's what's it called? It's like paralysis, basically, where you really imperfect action bears imperfect inaction. Exactly. And so just kind of really keeping that in mind. Like I'm someone that I've always been someone that acts. And so even when I don't even know what's going on, even when it's last minute, at the end of the day, I'm still showing up. And so that's one thing I want to let you guys know, is that if you do feel frustrated sometimes that you don't have a system, don't let that deter you from still taking action and still doing the activities that like running a challenge group and doing your call outs and putting it together last. No one is going to really know, right? No one is going to really know. So I would just say that, because I know sometimes people stop. They don't do anything because it wasn't planned, or they didn't have a system. And as a result, they're not really growing and they're not adding to their network and they're not able to help people. And I will say this, especially if you are someone that struggles with time management, there is hope. There's hope for you. There's hope for us. I kind of equate it to losing weight, just like I equate it to Bible study. It's like a discipline that you need to just kind of keep trying to get back on track on. And so for me, this year is a huge focus of time management and organization for me, working from a list, working from a calendar. Now, baby steps. Again, if you can work baby steps, like now the fact that I have everything written on a calendar, my work life, my Beachbody life, all my travel, that's a huge step from where I was from a couple years ago. So little small steps, and then working from a list, and don't, just having that grace for yourself so that you kind of fail forward, right? We talk a lot about that in coaching, failing forward, but always taking action. And so that's what I would say. You have any questions for me, or kind of, I feel like now I'm going to start mumbling or just kind of rambling.
I love that last part. I just think the really nailing in like the taking action over it being perfect, because I think a lot of times that we can tend to like collect information and just kind of wait until we feel like we have things figured out to take action, and it actually works the opposite way. Because I was the same. Like my business the first year was just total utter chaos of like do anything, do anywhere, nobody knows what the heck's going on, but like you're still in that forward moving momentum, and that's so important, and you figure out the logistics of it as you go. So I love that.
Absolutely.
I do know, Sari, do you want to ask your question, or do you want me to ask it for you?
I can ask it.
Okay.
So thank you, Stephanie, for coming on, because I've actually been following you, I think, before I was even a coach. So, so I work full time. I'm a graphic designer, and I just feel like Beachbody's always on my head. So I don't know. I feel like you're a doctor, so it's like maybe you turn it off. It's like able to switch it off. I know, like, going in the bathroom writing messages, but I don't know if you like try to like shut it down in your head when you're working and then like turn it back on, and how you do that, because I feel like sometimes I wish that I would just be able to like focus at work. I mean, I still do my job. I do a good job, but it's like just knowing it'll still be there, like relax, the message will still be there at 6 o'clock type thing. So right. I don't know if you have any advice about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I will say that usually because of my schedule and because of my work life, and because when I'm at work, it's so busy, I'm kind of forced into having to shut it off a lot of times, depending on how busy it is. But I will say that one thing that I've kind of told people is that absolutely you should shut it off when you're at work, because I know, like, one of my success partners, for example, when she first started, she was a nurse and a flight attendant and a mom of 3. And so she was working. And so she built her business an hour a day, 30 minutes in the morning and 30 minutes in the evening. And that was the only time that she checked into her messages. She would send her messages in the morning, shut it off, 30, 40 minutes, move over, do her work, go to work, take care of her family. In the evening, she would open up her computer again and respond to the messages and respond at that time. So you realize that it's your business and you set the expectations for your clients. If you start responding right away, they're always going to expect that. But if you really, if you have those hard hours, or you just say, you know what, I'm going to be at work, or I'm at work right now, I'll get back to you later on, or not even that. You just kind of, when you go and you message them later on, and you say, hey, I was at work earlier when I got your message. I just finally settled in. I'm kind of getting back, I just settled in, and that's why I'm responding to you now, just so that they know, because then they'll know next time when they write to you, if there's a delay, they understand. So I would say that absolutely you can. And for me, because of my line of work, sometimes when it's really busy, I'm forced to shut it off because I can't respond because I'm busy running around the emergency room. And so I have no opportunity to, even though sometimes I wish I did. But I also know that no one is standing on the other side of the phone with a credit card ready to order. I learned that, probably several months. It took me a little bit to really realize that, but I'll be honest. But I learned that, Sari, that it was just not, those people are not standing there absolutely willing, ready.
Yeah, no, I've learned, I'm like 10 months in, and I learned that if anyone, I joked, I wrote this on page, went in and booked it with someone else when I was in Punta Cana. Mm-hmm. Which is like, then they weren't meant to work with me, so that's fine, So I hear that. I just need to like have better boundaries. So it's good to hear what you have to say.
Absolutely. I would say and this is and this is good practice for you too, because it's good practice if you're doing it with your clients, because then you'll be able to do it with your team. And that's incredibly important, to be able to set those boundaries, because if you don't set those boundaries with your clients and then you start having a team, your team's going to, and if you make yourself incredibly always available to your team, it's going to drive you crazy. It's going to drive you crazy, and it's going to be very overwhelming and very draining. And so practicing those boundaries now is going to be really important for you. Let's see, Ashley says, I work in cardiac surgery. How do you handle posting being on Facebook during clinic hours? Are you just saying Ashley, is Ashley on, or is she?
Yeah, I'm on.
Oh.
I don't know about the healthcare facility you work at, but not like at mine. I work at the Cleveland Clinic, but I've heard some things about people, hospitals kind of being very careful and aware of what people post on Facebook. Have you ever had any issues with that? I've deleted like my affiliation, although I just said it on the call. But have you ever had any issues with that?
So the only I personally ever had was in residency, and it had nothing to do actually with my posting. It had more to do with someone felt that I was more distracted than usual, which I really wasn't, but which I thought was really interesting, because we always use our phones to look up things, but because they knew I was doing these things, they made that comment. That was the only time that it ever happened for me personally. Where I work, I work as an independent contractor, so I work at several different facilities. And again, no one's kind of watching me what I'm posting on my social media, so I have not had that issue. Now, I do not also talk about like patients or anything like that. I don't mention any of that in any way. I never say what hospital I'm at. That's something I never do. I always will, like, I may have a picture of me with my scrubs and my stethoscope and like work, but nothing is kind of, nothing more than that. And then if I ever say anything about a patient, it's usually like months later, very, very generic, that there's no patient identifiers or anything like that if it's the story or something that I want to share. But I think because, I know that they get really strict if you're sharing anything, any pictures. Like, I know there was a girl on social media or someone on social media who kept sharing like x-rays. And I was like, I don't know if they can do that. And they just kept sharing like x-rays just for educational purposes and to the people who were following them. But I was like, and a part of me wanted to do it, but I was like, no, I'm not going to do that, because I don't think I can do that. Especially the day of, to post x-rays of certain broken things. And that can easily, be traced back to someone that was in that hospital. So I would say that I tend to keep things very generic. And I don't have any type of identifiers on me. I don't know if that answers your question, but let's see. It's from Stephanie. I'm a school psychologist, and I'm in a low-income urban area. Totally wipes. Oh, yeah, I can only imagine that. Man, that's tough. Then I come home to 2 little kids. On those types of days, how do you push yourself to be present? I have been doing this for almost 2 years now, and that's my biggest struggle. I'm already up at 4:30. How do you focus long enough at the end of the day? So what time do your kids go to bed?
So usually once they're finally in bed by like 8, and my husband helps me tons.
That's amazing.
From like 8 to 10 is, the cleaning, the prepping, the laundry, like everything like that. So finally by like 9:30, 10, I could sit for 5 minutes literally. And that's when I'm doing quick things on my phone, answering a message or things like that. But if I'm to write a post while I'm helping my son get ready for bed, then I don't get an evening post. But I don't want to do that because I'm missing out on the 2 hours a day that I get with him. Mm-hmm. So it's so tough because, I literally get 2 hours a day with both my kids. I have a 3-year-old and a 9-month-old. Mm-hmm. So once I finally get that quiet time, my head can't focus on putting together systems or, reaching out and things like that, because I'm literally trying to just let everything go.
Mm-hmm. So a couple things. Do you have the weekends off?
I do.
So a couple of things I'll say to that, because you're a very busy person. Clearly you're a very busy person. Number one, how well is your organization would be my question. Like how much do you
Dana.
how much do you work from a plan? Because honestly, it sounds like you're not managing your time and time is managing you. Just from the short amount of, like, from what you've told me. And so a couple pieces of advice that I would say is that, I was gonna also mention that too as well. But a couple things, like kind of like what Dana is saying, is that in times like this, you really need to have a good understanding of your vision and your why, and where, and like why you want this to work, because that's the only way you're going to really show up, right? For me, my why is knowing, and it's going to be unique to every single person, right? And that's the beauty. It may be because of family, maybe it's financial freedom, maybe it's you want to be able to be more present with your kids. As opposed to having 2 hours a day, you want to have several hours a day, and you want to be able to have summers off, and you want to be able to have those experiences with them and be able to have that extra income, that part-time extra income to come in to be able to provide for them certain things. So you really have to, number one, define your why, define your vision, so that fuels you on those days when you're really tired. Because I'll be honest, let me tell you something, guys. I did not want to come on this call. Why? Because I am exhausted. I had a horrible travel time coming back from Punta Cana. I got delayed. My plane I missed my plane. I ended up coming in a day later. I had to go in early today. My boyfriend went to Ohio today, wanted me to wake up at the crack of dawn with 3 hours of sleep, and worked a 12-hour shift today. And it was super busy. And I was like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do this. Guess what? This is already planned. Had I not planned this, where I would be? I'd be in bed sleeping probably, to be honest. But because I planned this, and I have a call after this, right, that I planned. So that's where planning is being not deviating from that plan, because it's great to sit down and have a plan and be like, oh yes, and then everything is beautiful, and we're just like, wow, this looks fantastic. But then if we don't execute it and we don't follow through, that's not good either. So my advice to you, my dear, is that number one, really defining your why, defining your vision so that motivates you. And two is really sitting down and starting to plan your life into a calendar. That's going to be incredibly important, because there are going to be things that you're going to have to say no to. And for example, it's really making a list of priorities and asking yourself, okay, what are my goals? And what is it that I'm trying to achieve? And what are my priorities? And then kind of really take a hard look at your life and say, okay, how am I really spending my time? Are there things that I can let go for this season, right? Because when we say no to things, it's not no forever, but it's no to a certain season. Like, there's no reason you need to be doing laundry, so many times a week, and you don't need to do the dishes every single night, and you don't need to but you have to plan these things out with your husband, who sounds like he's super supportive, who I'm sure that if you communicate and you guys talk this out and you say, honey, I really want to make this work, and I need an hour, 2 hours. If you had an hour and a half of focused time where you're building relationships, and you had that hour of focused time of reaching out to people, following up with people, touching people's lives, even if it's just that focused time, that will serve you well, overall. You don't need it's really having that. I will tell you this, and I tend to kind of go all over the place. My hardest transition was when I went from being having more time as a provider. My productivity declined because I was used to being able to do more in a limited amount of time, because I knew I had that limited amount of time. And then when I had all this time, because I didn't know how to plan it, I wasted a lot of time. And so you need to really kind of look at your schedule and say, and remember, like I said, it's a skill. Working from a list and working from a calendar is a skill. And it's something you have to have grace for yourself, but you have to decide that that's where you want to go, because you know that it's hurting you. And that's why I decided to make it a focus for me, because I knew that my lack of working from a calendar, my lack of working from a list, is hurting my potential to grow my business. And when you start feeling that pain and you start realizing that, that's what's going to also help you motivate you to change, and help you motivate to make the steps. And then the other thing I would say is that in terms of your posting, scheduling your posts will be something that would be very helpful. Yes, it takes some time and some effort, but scheduling your posts ahead of time on the weekend, you can schedule out your posts using some of our scheduling apps that are out there. Another thing I would say, especially for all of you guys with posts, make sure that you guys are saving your post. How many of you save your post? Be honest. How many of you save your post? Like you have like a little document or a little way. So I use Google Keep. Are you guys familiar with Google Keep? I use Google Keep to save all of my posts because I like Google Drive. It's on my phone, it's on my computer, and it allows me to be, whenever I make a post, I put it into Google Keep with the actual written text, with the photo, and I label them. So all my before and afters in one big folder, all my motivation by Stephanie in one big folder, all of my like motivation about medical school and schooling in one big folder. That way on those days when I want to pull out and I need to plan my posts, they're already done. And I don't think about it. And that's working smart, right? That's working smart when you have those good posts, working smart and reusing it. Because remember, just because you posted your story like last week, trust me, you need to be posting your story twice a week. And that's a fact. You need to be, all of you need to be posting your story of like your transformation, why you became a coach, all of that jazz needs to be posted at least twice a week on your social media, very consistently. But I would say for you, Stephanie, is that setting, start planning your schedule, because there's going to have to be some give and take, and there's going to have to be some days where things are not going to get done, and that you have to give yourself grace for that. Or maybe it's saying, hey, honey, can you help me out on Monday, Wednesday, Friday with the dishes so that I can work on my follow-ups. And then you kind of, you talk it out with him. But you also then have to be present in your business at that time. And you need to show up, and you need to be consistent, and you need to stay focused. And that means shutting that, getting rid of all your distractions, going into a quiet room, having a quiet space. That's going to be incredibly important. Because I can tell that you're not managing your time is managing you. And it's because you're busy. And I understand you want to be present for your kids, but also realizing that this business could potentially give you more time with your children. And that has to be a driving force for you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Teamsy has helped me to focus so much. Absolutely. I love Teamsy. Wait, recycling the same post. Yes, Serena. Yes. Yes. Recycling the same posts. If you post something 2 weeks ago, guess what? You can post those same posts again, especially if you're using Instagram and especially if you're using Instagram. Instagram, you can repost like weekly, the same post if you wanted to. And so exactly, and change the image. Absolutely. That's what I do actually, guys, for before and afters on my Instagram. That's a tip that I can give you for Instagram. For my Instagram, I always try to make sure that I have a before and after up in my top 6 of the first. And what I do is literally if post a before and after at 9 a.m., what I'll do is I'll come back in at 3 o'clock, go to that post, copy the content, delete it, and then repost it again so that it's present again at 3 o'clock. And so I just kind of recreate. That's what I do. I've always done that for years. That's how I've always done my Instagram. Facebook, but definitely you can be reposting, like, especially if you work from a business page, you can plan out, like if you have a really popular post, plan that post out for like several months, post it once a month. And you'll still get really good engagement on that post, because remember, whenever we post, a very small percentage actually see our post. And so you just have to keep that in mind. So remember that. I basically use the same challenge invite. Yep, I have the same challenge invite. I do the same thing. So that's exactly what I do. Keep it very simple. You don't overcomplicate it. Very simple. Any other questions? Did you have some? Let's see. Mind blown. Did you have any questions, Dana? Did they ask you?
Nope, you covered it all.
Actually, I'll ask one more thing. Because I guess the transition, like I don't have a team yet, but do you mostly do your like coaching calls at night? Do you like set times, and like how, like, I don't want to like take up too much of your time. If there's like a quick thing, the transition, once you start having a team, like having those hours, because I think I'm worried about that and it's holding me back, because thinking, here I am just like managing all these challengers, and then thinking, wow, like managing coaches and challengers and a job.
The best advice I can tell you is to work together as a team. That's incredibly important. What I find is that a lot of coaches, they feel like once they start having a team that they're alone. And I think, I don't know how Dana runs her team, but like, I know for me, I've always wanted to work together as a team with my leaders, because many hands make less work. And so when you're saying, I feel worried about these calls, it's realizing that you're going to have other rising leaders in your team and joining forces with them, so that you're not the one bearing the brunt of all the work. Because I'm telling you will really hard for yourself if you take it on to only do it all by yourself. I know that the hard way, because I did that, and so I will say that you should always stay 70 to 80% of your time should always be on your own personal business. It should always be on you recruiting, bringing new people into your team. Because one thing I will tell you, especially, as a piece of advice, is that, we always have to be in recruitment mode. We always have to be adding new people to our business, because you never know who's going to work this business. Just like you, and then you cannot take, it's like you can't make someone work this business. And that's the hard lesson that each of you are going to go through as you build this business. It's an incredibly hard lesson, incredibly hard. I will say that it's, some people go through that lesson really fast. Some of us kind of linger in there a little bit when you feel that responsibility, when you bring coaches on and they don't do the business the way that you see the potential for them, especially because you spend so much time mentoring them and working with them. But just always staying in that phase one is going to be incredibly important. I always, once I had about 3 or 4 coaches, because again, I didn't have an upline. You guys have this great team call. And so I didn't have an upline. So once I had 3 or 4 coaches, I started running. I don't know what I was doing. What I used to do is I used to go to the bombshell calls that I found, and I would literally like take notes, and that's what I would do my call on. I would then take it and bring it to my team and do my call on that. And that's, I copied slides and everything, and I presented the material. Was that a lot of work? Yeah, it was, but that's what I felt like I needed to do at that time. Now with my team today, we have one team call, every other week. And we share that workload, and we kind of amongst the leaders. And so I will say, don't let it stop you, because you're going to have to grow through that. You're going to have to be willing to fail forward through that and see what's going to work best for you. And again, everything is about setting expectations. And so if you tell yourself, I'm going to, if you sign up a new coach and you're going to get back to them within a certain time period, you get to set those expectations. If you want to have a getting started right call with one person or with a group of people, you get to set those expectations. You have to find what's going to work best for your schedule. And that's the beauty of this business. So I do all my calls in the evening. Typically, I do all my one-on-one calls in the evening because I work during the day. And so I tend to stay up later. My calls will go sometimes until 11 o'clock at night if I'm doing certain one-on-one calls, because I have a lot of West Coast coaches. And so it just all depends, and having that flexibility, staying flexible like that helps as well. I don't know if that answers your question, but
it does.
I don't feel like I answered your question, but
it's good.
But it's, building your team, that's where it's not easy. And it's a lot of trial and error, and it's a lot of personal development, and it's a lot of there has to be some level of organization. And it's great that you guys have this team call, because this is where you would plug those coaches in the beginning and work together. So
can I add to this? I love that you mentioned the super, super hard lesson, because it is. I think it's one of the hardest lessons that you will learn in this business, is that not everybody is going to run with you the way that you're running with it. But also just what you're basically in general, just talking about growing into that leadership role and building a team, it's like the same thing as being a brand new coach and thinking like, how the hell do I share on social media? Like, what do I say? What do I post? How do I write people? How do I start conversations? Like, it's just a whole new level of that growth process, and you don't learn it and master it until you are in deep and actually doing it. It's not something where you can sit on the sidelines and think, I'm just going to read 20 leadership books and I'm going to be an incredible leader. You learn it by doing and failing forward, just like anything else with coaching. So
Absolutely.
you just
and
dive in and get dirty.
and going, because that's why I was like, if you guys had any questions, because I feel like that's the stuff that sometimes people don't talk enough about, to not to warn, but just to kind of really give perspective to kind of rising leaders. Because like you said, we cannot take credit for someone's success, nor can we take credit for their failure. Yeah. That's with our coaches. And then, and other good pieces of like words of wisdom that I've learned is that, who you work with to get you to a certain rank and to get you to a certain point may not be the same people who get you to the next rank and get you to the next point. And that's why you constantly have to be funneling in people and adding new people and adding fresh blood and adding new energy. Because that is the game. That is what we do in this business. It's never that you're always going to like find that one person and then you're going to like, it's going to all like magically happen. You constantly have to be in that funneling, constantly have to be in that recruitment mode, thickening your skin, and not getting, not taking it personally when people to follow through and decide to leave. And again, that's something like Dana was saying, it's something you're all going to have to really just go through and see how you experience that, so
well, on the flip side of that, like the having tough, the thick skin part of it, I think is that if you are a good coach and you actually care, is that you really emotionally invest in the goals that people tell you that they have. And that's one of the hardest things, is that sometimes
absolutely
you just can't want it more for people than they want it for themselves. You just have to do your best to show up and lead them to that. So
absolutely. Awesome.
Does anybody else have questions for Miss Stephanie? You covered a lot of awesome stuff tonight. Anybody?
Awesome.
No? Okay, well, I don't want to keep you because I know you're busy, but thank you so much for hopping on and sharing tonight. I know there's a ton of coaches on here that definitely are going to implement some things to better help them actually show up for their business consistently with busy schedules. So thank you so much for everything you shared. Thank you guys for hopping on tonight, and we will see you next week. Have a good night, guys.
Thank you.